So today we are starting the Big 10 series, and it is basically all different stories of the Bible. I think it's really cool because we're going to get to know God in different ways through the stories. Some of the stories you may know, some of the stories you may not know, and that's the cool part about it is that we can learn new things. So I get to do creation, and what's really, really funny is I go to college at Mount Vernon, and before Pastor Richie asked me to preach, he didn't know that my next class was on Genesis. Everything Genesis. So I'm like, okay, I hear it. I can do creation. And then I started my class and I was like, oh man, there's a lot to this. This is a lot of stuff that I didn't know about because, I mean, you kind of read the Genesis story and you're like, okay, that's a little weird. And let me tell you, if you're new to the Bible, don't start at Genesis. Don't do it. When I was a teen and I went to, it was a youth group, a real small, and actually was a Nazarene youth group, oddly enough. I was like, they gave me a Bible because I showed up, right? And I got the Bible, and I'm like, this is awesome. I got a Bible. Let me just start at the beginning. Cool. And the first part's okay. The creation story's cool. And then you move on, and you're like, oh, wow. And then you shut the book, and you don't open it again. So if you have the Bible and you're new to the Bible, and you're like, I want to read, I want to get to know God in the Bible, start in a gospel. Start in John. I'm telling you, Genesis is harder. But now that I'm learning more about Genesis, it's really cool. Like, reading it by myself, I was like, what is this? And as a new believer, I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't know any Bible stories. I was like, I don't know. I don't know about this. So everyone knows, like, the first words of the Bible. I feel like it's, like, the thing that everyone knows. In the beginning, God created. And I just, when I was praying about the message and, you know, let me hear more than just what the words are saying. Let me hear what you want to say. In the beginning, God just, like, struck me. I was like, in the beginning, God. God has always been. He was here before the world was created. He was here. And that just blows my mind. I can't fathom it. Like, when was God born? He's always been, and he always will be. And I think that is such a cool thing to remember when we're going through things, when life is happening, and we're like, okay, God's always here. He's been here. He knows the beginning from the end. He's the Alpha and the Omega. He knows everything. And seeing him as he creates the earth in the way he does it, and the reason he does it, and the details he puts into everything, how much more does he care about our lives? He cares so much about us. So I want a little bit of crowd participation because I'm up here like, hey. So when I say, like, the first day is kind of different because it starts differently. But, like, every other day, if I say, like, day 2, I want you to say, God said, or and God said. So let's practice. Day 2. Thank you. I was going to have the teens do it, but they're really tired from their trip, so I couldn't. I'm giving them a break, giving them a little break. So in Genesis 1:1-4, it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. I think it's really cool that the way he describes everything, because I didn't understand that. So he created the earth and the heavens, but it was formless. There wasn't a form to it. So I'm thinking, what? You, like, can't comprehend that. And then it's just waters. And there's a way it's described. It says that the waters were just going crazy over the deep. And in the original language, it talks about how the waters, it was chaotic. It was just darkness at first. And the waters were just rushing. So that was day 1. He created the heavens, the earth, and the night and the day. Day 2. Oh, you guys are on it. And God said, let's make the sky. He saw that there was space there, and he wanted a space between the two waters. Everything was waters. So he saw that and was like, well, he's so creative. I feel like just seeing him create these things, I'm like, he just looks at it and knows exactly what he wants to do and the reasons and the purposes he has for everything. So he separated the waters, and he called it the sky. So now we have the waters, we have the sky, the heavens and the earth are forming, everything's coming together. Day 3, yes. He said, let's add something different to the waters. Let's make dry ground. So we made the dry ground and separated the waters with dry ground, and he called that land. And now we have a name for the waters. He calls it the seas. So we have the land and the seas in the sky. And it says, then God said, let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants, and trees on the land that bear fruit with seed in it, according to their various kinds. And it was so. The land produced vegetation, plants bearing seed according to their kinds, and trees bearing fruit with seed in it according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. I love how he takes a look at what he's created, and he's like, that's a good thing. I like that. It's a pretty good you know how your kids come up to you and they make some painting, and you're like, I've got to figure out what this thing is, because they're going to be upset if I don't know what is this, Mommy? And I'm like, that looks like, you know what that looks like? And you just kind of give them time because they're excited, and they're going to tell you. There's a little tidbit for you. They're going to tell you what they think it is. But they're like, and you're like, that is so good. That is the perfect duck, okay? That is amazing. I think God just looks back at his creation, and I love that it says that he says that it's good. Because it's like, he's God. Of course it's good. Like, I feel like it says it over and over again. It's just like, it's like him saying it, I approve of this. This is good. So day 4, thank you. And God said, we need lights to separate the day and the night. The greater light to be seen in the day, and the lesser light to be seen in the night. He also made the stars to fill the sky. And God saw that it was good. So this kind of blew my mind, and I never saw it before. But when he made light and day to begin with on the first day, I assumed that was the sun and the moon. Because light and day, and it's day and night, that's the sun and a moon. So what was the light before the sun and the moon? What was there? It was God. God was the light. I think that is really cool. Like, I never noticed that. I just assumed, okay, he made day and night, the sun and the moon, and everything that goes with it. But that's not true. On the 4th day, he made those things. I think it's really cool to know that, God just lit it up. God lit up the sky, and he was the light, and he still is the light. So day 5, awesome. And God said, let the water teem with living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the vault of the sky. So God created the great creatures of the sea and every living thing with which the water teems and that moves about in it, according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them and said, be fruitful and increase in number, and fill the water in the seas, and let the birds increase on the earth. So this is the first thing that God blesses. He didn't bless the moon. He didn't bless the stars. He didn't bless the land. He blessed the living creatures. Day 6. Oh, you guys are so good. And now he made the living creatures for the sea and the sky. Now he's making the living creatures for the land. So, and God said, let there be land animals according to their kind. And then he did something different. He made the land animals, and he also made mankind. And mankind, it says in the Bible, mankind. If you go to, so Genesis 1 is one, and I didn't know this either. Genesis 1 is one account of Genesis creation, and Genesis 2 is another account of the creation story. So you should read them both and kind of compare them because it's interesting. But when he said God made mankind, that is both male and female. It represents male and female. He created mankind and did something he hadn't done before. In chapter 2:7, it says, then the Lord God formed a man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being. So nothing else, the living creatures didn't get the breath of God breathed in them, but we did. He had a special purpose for that, I believe. And so I think that is really interesting. And it's once he breathed life into us, it says then man was a living being. Then we're alive because the breath of life is inside of us. And it says that we were made in God's image and likeness, and he blessed us. I heard recently about what a different way of looking at what it means to be God's image. And I think it's interesting because he says, in God's image and likeness. To me, that means the same thing. We're like him. We're made like him. But recently I heard that my maker is a mirror. So when we look in the mirror, we're not God. But when we look at ourselves in the mirror, we are like him. We have the characteristics like him. We want to be like Christ in character and in deed, and to reflect Christ always. And then he blessed us, and he looked at everything. He made the whole earth, the whole heavens, everything. He looked at it all, and he said that it is very good. This time it was different. Everything else was good, good, good. Then he looked at everything and said, it's very good. Everything was perfect. It was complete. Everything was where it was supposed to be. And then on day 7, God didn't say it, so don't say it. There's no saying now. It's different. Day 7 was the day of rest. And I think we've all heard that because we come to church and they're like, the Sabbath day is the day of rest, the 7th day, right? But God doesn't sleep and he doesn't nap. So after he made everything, I don't think he was tired. He wasn't like, man, that was a lot of work. That was crazy. I kind of look at it kind of differently. I think, do you know how when you have a long list of stuff to do and someone comes up to you and they're like, can you just sit on the couch for a minute? And you're like, I can't sit on the couch. I've got to get this done. Now, God doesn't have the anxious mind like us, like, oh, I got to do it. Or, but that feeling you get when everything's done and then you can sit on the couch, you're like, now I can rest. I feel like after everything was formed where he wanted it, that he could just rest on it all. He was just there and in everything and just happy and everything was complete and in harmony, just perfect. And then he was there, and I think when it says he rested there, that he rested there. He was on the waters. He was in the trees. He was there making, just happy with everything that he's done because it says it was very good. And I heard recently when it came to the 7th day, and there is no 8th day. It doesn't say, okay, let's move on to the 8th day. It doesn't say that. I think that what was supposed to happen is that was just supposed to continue every day. Everything in harmony, everything made perfect. So now we're going to move on to a different kind of idea. When I was thinking about creation and how everything was made perfectly and he's God, so of course you think of him as the creator, and of course everything's perfect. He's God and he made it, right? But when you think about your personal creation story of where you started from, where you came from, and maybe you came from 2 loving parents and that's been your story, and I think that's amazing, and that's something to think about. That's something to be so grateful for. But I was thinking about my personal creation story and how when I was born to a prostitute, and I was abandoned in the hospital by her, and I was born addicted to drugs, and I was thinking, I've always been kind of ashamed of that. It's kind of like, oh, well, I really wasn't made to be here. Like, there is no reason why the way I started, who I came from, why I should be here, And so God really spoke to me through these verses in Psalm 139. It says, for you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place. When I was woven together in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. How precious to me are your thoughts. God, how vast is the sum of them. that just blew my mind to think that God had it planned, even through what I came through, that he could use me, that he had a plan from the beginning. And I love that it says that he knew every day before I was even born. Like, he had it mapped out. Everything. What a creator. What a creator. And how is it hard for me to trust that? Why can't I just trust the creator? If he had everything planned and everything made, why can't we just trust him so easily? You think we would just be like, yeah, he's got it all planned. Creation can start dark, chaotic, and empty. That's how everything formed. Everything was dark, and the waters were going crazy. And in the original, it says the word chaotic. Everything was crazy and empty. And this being, this person that, if you heard my story, maybe like, oh, I don't know, they're not going to make it. That's a lot to break out of, you know. I'm not sure what the plan would be there. But our creation story started in God's thoughts. And he said, let it be. He created us, breathed life into us, and said it was good. And then he blessed us. Just like the creation story. He did the same thing for us. And what I noticed as I was reading in Genesis, the first 3 days of creation, he was making space for everything. He had the sky and the land. He had everything in its place. But the last 3 days, he was filling that space. So he made the sky, and then on the fourth day, he made the birds to be in the sky. And he made the land, and then he made the land creatures and us. And so it's interesting to see the details he put into that. You think, well, why didn't he just kind of make the sky? And, well, you made it. Let's fill it right then and there. I think there's a process that God goes through in everything and in our lives. He fills places in our lives the same way. He empties it out, and then he can fill it. The question is, what did God make space for you in your life? And what is he filling that space with? In Ephesians 2:10, it says, for we are his workmanship, his own master work, a work of art, created in Christ Jesus, reborn from above, spiritually transformed, renewed, ready to be used for good works, which God prepared for us beforehand, making paths which he set, so that we would walk in them, living the good life which he prearranged and made ready for us. Have you ever met somebody and you just think, man, they were made to do that? Like, they just are natural at it. I think Pastor Richie could probably do anything. Like, you give him a task and he's going to figure out how to do it. Like, at the youth thing, we're like, if we say, oh, this is going on, he'll be like, I'll take care of it. And you know he's going to take care of it. Like, he's going to, I think that each one of us has that in us. I think there's certain things that he has put in us, and it might seem so small and insignificant, but it's not. Different personalities, different things that he has put inside of us. And for me, mine is music. When I was younger, I can't remember life without music. I feel like life has always been about music. And I remember going into my room as like a teenager, and I had a cassette tape. Don't make fun of me. But I would play the cassette, and I'd have the little words from the cassette, and I would memorize them. And if I messed up, I was rewinding that tape, and I was memorizing them. And so, and it's very interesting because I didn't grow up in I didn't go to church when I grew up. And so I didn't have religion in my life or Jesus in my life. I knew of him, but I didn't know him, right? And so the things that he was putting in me, and you could say maybe, well, why would you waste your time if, she doesn't even go to church. So why would you, waste your time on that? But he gave me a heart already for music. And I remember going in my room and listening to it, and it was an escape. I could go into my room, shut the door, turn the music on, and escape. And I think a lot of us are like that with music. When you're having a rough day, or you put a real happy song on. Ethan had some vibes going this morning. And it just makes you feel happy. Like, you're just like, yes, this is awesome. But then when I started going to church, and I went to a really awesome church that once you accepted Christ, you were serving, just like this church is. Everybody serves, everyone's welcome to serve. And so it was like that, and they were like, oh, so what are you good at? What do you want to do? And I'm like, don't put me in front of anybody, because that's not what I'm doing. And but I really got into the worship. Praise and worship was what had me staying in church at first, because the music was really good, and I'm like, this is awesome. I like coming here. This is great. And, I didn't know the Bible yet, so I was like, sometimes it's just like, I don't know, And so, but someone called me out one day, they were like, you should join the youth worship team. And I'm like, what? Nah, that's cool. But as I continued to get, grow deeper in Christ and grow deeper in my relationship, and God started showing me things. And it was that heart that he had already put in me for music that started it. Those things that, some people are good at sports. Some people are good at fixing things. Some people are, there's things that God has put in you already that you probably don't even realize that he put in there. He made those empty spaces, and now he's filling them. And then you look back and you're like, oh, that kind of makes sense now, why you would put that heart in me, and it would continue. Like, he was already prearranging the things in my life to come, because he knew every day already lined up. I found it very interesting that when it was talking about the animals and the plants and the trees, that it was talking about how each animal was made according to its kind, and each plant was made according to its kind. And I'm thinking, why does that really have to be in there? I mean, you made all the animals. Okay, you made all the plants. But it made it so clear that he made certain animals to do certain things. Like, I asked Gavin, I was like, tell me an animal. What animal should I talk about? He said the giraffe. So that's what we're going with. So the giraffe has a very long neck, but it can reach to the highest places of the tree so it can eat what it needs to eat to survive. And I was thinking about how there's different things, like a mug and a plate. You can drink out of a plate. You can try to drink out of a plate. But the plate was made to hold things on it. And a mug was made to drink out of it. I was actually going to have them come up there and perform this, but I'm giving them a break. We are the same way. We were created for certain things. Now, it doesn't mean the mug is better than the plate or the plate's better than the mug. They were just made for different things. The space that God made in these things were made and designed, just like he designed the earth, for different things. He made you perfectly to fulfill your purpose. He gave you the gifts and talents on purpose. The creator of the universe created us, breathed life into us, and we can have rest when we are living out what he created us to be. I think sometimes when we're doing a lot of things, I remember when I started at a church I used to go to, and I was involved in like every single ministry. I did it all because I said yes to everything, because I wanted to do it all. I'm like, I love Jesus, and I want to tell people in every area that I love Jesus. And so I was in every ministry, and and I was busy, and I loved it, and I was, doing what I wanted to do, and it was awesome, but I found that I was fatigued, and sometimes I didn't have the best attitude, and I didn't understand why, I'm making myself available. Why do I feel this way? And sometimes we put ourselves in those places, even with work and jobs, because it's not where you're supposed to be. That's not where God created you to be. We can do things. We can do, it's nice to help out in areas, but if you're focusing on one thing or focusing on multiple, he wants to use you where he created you to be used. And so when we think about that, and we think about how when he created on the 6 days and he rested on the 7th, I think we can truly have rest when we are doing what he created us to do. He may have put something inside of you and told you, this is what I want you to do. Or if you are in a job, or if you're everything's always not perfect. There are times when I'm like, I'm quitting. I'm not doing this any longer. Yes, I know you created me for this, but it's hard. The process is hard and difficult sometimes. Sometimes we want to skip to the between things. But see, he made the space, and we want to be like, okay, he made the space. He gave me these talents. He gave me these gifts, this ability to run a business and do it well, right? And I want to skip to the blessing part. Can we just skip to the blessing part? I'm going to do it, and you're going to bless it. But God has things that he has to do in between. He wants it formed and emptied you out. Then he's going to create it. He's going to put those things in you. He's going to grow those gifts and talents. He's going to see that it's good when you're ready, right? And then he's going to send you out and he's going to bless you. It all goes back to in the beginning, God. We can trust the Creator. We can trust what he has told us. And he will create a way for you. He's not done creating. He's still creating. When I watched the teens this week, they did their talents and everything, and just watching different kids from different youth groups and the speaker, oh my gosh, there was no doubt he was created to do what he's doing. I was seeing different things in different areas where, when you look at your own kids, you're like, I wonder what they're going to do when they're older, And you're like, oh, they're made for this, right? They're made for this. I was watching our teens, and man, they are made for some wonderful things. We have an awesome group of teens. And they are just really good kids. And it's really cool. And we get to watch their creation story. We get to see the things that we kind of pinpoint, like Ethan with his piano playing. And he's really good with people. He's really good with talking to people and having a good time and kind of changing the room, which it's a hard thing to do to change the atmosphere. But he's so good at that. He was created for that. What is God telling you that you're created for? What has he filled you with? And what is he asking you to give up? Sometimes we have to empty spaces out. That's what I had to do when I was doing all these ministries and all this stuff. I had to take some things out so that he could fill it with the things that should have been there. And so today, as we continue, Tori's going to come up and do another song. We're going to continue in worship. Ask God what he's created you for. And don't be like I was growing up and be like, I was created for misery. I have no good plan. God created me to suffer. It's not true. God has things inside of you that he's created you for. It doesn't even have to be big things. He cared about the details of each animal, the birds and how they would have to eat, and the size of their beaks that they would have to eat with, the giraffe with their neck. He cares just as much about every detail of your life. And so if you find yourself in a place of unfulfillment or you don't have rest, right? You're not just... Ask him today what he wants for you, what he has planned for you. He is the potter and we are the clay.
We are so glad that you joined us today. My name is Richie Griffith, and I'm the lead pastor here at Movement Church in Tipp City, Ohio.
And I'm Doug Doms, the executive pastor.
Absolutely, and this ministry is made possible through your generosity.
It is your support that keeps this ministry going, and we want to encourage all of you to go to Movementchurch.community and continue to support our ministry.
Yeah, make sure that today you go to social media and you find us at The Movement 937. And while you are there, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell.
Thank you so much for being a part of our ministry. God bless you and have a great day.